All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here. So first of all, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Oh, come on. You can do a lot better than that. This is the last day. We all get to go home after this. So come on. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. All righty then. Anyway, my name's Joe Horiye, and I'm with San Diego LISC. Our program is actually celebrating its 20th anniversary and helping to revitalize and rebuild neighborhoods in America's finest city. And it's a pleasure to be here today to share our work with you. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with where San Diego is, and this is not meant in a political context, San Diego is on the left coast, and we're actually located in the southern portion of California. We share a border with Mexico. And you may not realize this, but San Diego is actually is the second largest city in the state of California in terms of population, only second to Los Angeles. We're also known for having a large military presence. In fact, we still do to this day. And we're also known for being a center of the emerging biotech industry and home to telecommunications giant Qualcomm, among other new industries. And regardless of how big San Diego is or how large we've become, San Diego is still recognized as one of the best tourist destinations in the world. And as a native San Diegan, simply put, it's a beautiful place to live. It's a great place to call home. We have sun, sandy beaches, great weather, beautiful people, the world-famous zoo, and so much more. But what you may not realize, what you may not know, are the stories and the work happening in our older, lower-income neighborhoods and communities. And that's what we want to talk to you and share with you this morning. And yes, even in paradise, we do indeed have neighborhoods in need. And like many older neighborhoods in San Diego, much like the rest of the country, either influenced by land use policies, population growth, immigration, economic expansion, redevelopment, and other opportunities, we are becoming more diverse as a population. We are becoming more diverse as a people. And our work is finding us partnering with more immigrant and new American communities, and we don't see this trend changing. Today we want to share with you some of our San Diego innovations, specifically the challenges and successes in working with diverse groups of people and its impact on our work. We want to share with you the richness of our immigrant communities, and in particular, you'll learn how residents in one San Diego neighborhood, Colina Park, are working together to revitalize and rebuild their neighborhood and their community. Ladies and gentlemen, a neighborhood that on any given day, you'll hear more than 20 different languages being spoken. It truly is an international village. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to set the stage. In 2008, we launched our version of LISC Sustainable Communities called Neighborhoods First in two neighborhoods, Greater Logan Heights and Colina Park in City Heights. We used the quality of life planning process. The neighborhoods essentially created a roadmap that is comprehensive, action-oriented, and stakeholder-driven. And what we learned at the end of the day is this. Simply put, we all want the same things for our kids and ourselves. Whether we've been in this country a long time or whether we haven't been in this country a long time, we all have big dreams for ourselves and our children. We all want access to good jobs, entrepreneurship, affordable housing, good schools, healthcare, safe streets, and so much more in terms of opportunities. But the bottom line is we know this. We know that the strategy has to be intentionally integrated and encompass both a people and places prosper pathway, meaning that our work must be about people helping themselves and their families to get to where they need to go. And let's face it, there are challenges, very big challenges in dealing with diversity of people in general. Different languages, cultures, customs don't make things easy. In fact, diversity can sometimes be perceived as a weakness. But in San Diego, we know that if you listen close enough, know what you're doing, embrace diversity in our new American communities, they can also become a great source of strength. They can become a powerful agent of change to help make things better for all of us. And what better way? What better way to start the morning off in presenting you with some of our own agents for change? People who understand diversity, and those empowering our new American communities in San Diego. And you'll notice that they have a couple of things in common. Number one, all these panelists here share a passion for helping others. They want to make a difference. Number two, they all serve as cultural bridges themselves in addressing certain levels of cultural competence. But more importantly, they've taken the framework of comprehensive community development and have become practitioners, implementers, and catalysts for improving lives in San Diego neighborhoods. And you know what? No one really wants to listen to me. So let's get this party started and let's get the show on the road. So first up, we're going to hear from Sakara Tier. She's to my immediate left, to your right. And she's the program manager for City Heights CDC, our convening agency in Colina Park. In the middle, and next to her, is Jason Jarvinen. He's the financial education program supervisor for the International Rescue Committee in San Diego, more affectionately known as the IRC. And last but not least, we'll hear from Umar Ba. He is one of the IRC's Financial Opportunity Center clients. So without further ado, take it away, Sakara.
Hello, everyone. Well, thank you, Joe, for that wonderful introduction. Before I start, I actually want to tell you about an amazing woman. Soka was born and raised in Cambodia. She had a farm with her family, and they devoted all their lives to the farm to produce enough crops just to make a living. Life was simple, and fun came in the most basic ways, fishing and everyday chores. But that all changed in the 1970s when a civil war broke out in Cambodia. Soka and her family witnessed and experienced things we could never imagine. They were sent to labor camps. People were beaten, shot, starved. She lost family members. In fact, she lost her father. But if you speak with Soka today, she would actually tell you she considers herself to be lucky. Lucky to have escaped to refugee camps in Thailand and Indonesia. Lucky to have immigrated to the United States in 1982. She had to start over in a new country with 2 young children. Everything she's ever known and had been taught were no longer relevant. So the big question is, what does comprehensive community development mean to her? That was an important question we had to ask ourselves when we started our work in 2007. Because Soka's story is a common story in Colina Park. Half of our residents are born outside the United States. The end of the Vietnam War led to an influx of newly arrived Southeast Asians, and in the 1990s, Somali refugees settled in and around Colina Park, and the Latino population continued to grow. You see, Soka's story is a story close to my heart because it's a story of my mom, and Colina Park is my childhood. Like most family, our family was resettled in Colina Park because of the relatively affordable housing. But this factor also contributed to Colina Park being the most densely populated neighborhood in the region, but this wasn't always the case. Colina Park was a community of single-family homes, but land use policies in the 1960s transformed the neighborhood as property owners convert their single-family homes to multi-family complexes. This was the beginning of Colina Park's transformation into a largely transient community with low resident ownership and high absentee landlords. Only 5% of the housing are homeowner occupied. Neighborhood identity and cohesion suffered because of these factors. So how do we engage this very diverse community with 20+ languages and people from all over the world with different perspectives of civic engagement? Well, we had no choice, so we decided to just simply listen. We launched a listening campaign. We started with an intimate one-to-one meeting to group meetings to larger community meetings. Anyone and everyone who was willing to talk, we were willing to listen to. Colina Park has never been engaged on this level before, and the lack of a neighborhood association only made it harder. But our convening agency, City Heights Community Development Corporation, leveraged relationships they've developed over the last 30 years. So our steering committee was comprised of organizations with knowledge and capacity to engage residents. Let me re-emphasize that. Partners who have knowledge and capacity to organize people. We need to spark community dialogue, and we need to continue to have those dialogues, and we all know community organizers are the key to that. We spent a lot of time strategizing. How can we get people to the meetings? How can we handle all the languages? And each meeting required months of preparation. We pulled resources because resources were limited. For example, we provided food and logistics. Another partner would help translate flyers and materials. And another partner would provide volunteers for childcare. The school would provide meeting space. Everyone played a part. We didn't speak the same language, so we were really forced to get creative. We provided incentives by raffling donated items. We used translation equipment, which is the best investment ever. So we translate our meetings out to 2, sometimes 3 languages. We provided food, and the food was reflective of our diversity. Sometimes we had enchiladas to spring rolls to sambusas. We announced meetings on the local Spanish radio. We tapped into our local Vietnamese newspaper to announce events. We had to create relationships with cultural organizations and groups. For example, we create relationships with the Vietnamese American Youth Alliance, a youth organization, and Little Saigon Foundation, so they can educate us on how to engage the Vietnamese community. Another partner is Proyecto de Casas Saludables. They educated us about how to outreach to the Latino community. We also spoke with the imams at the local mosque to educate us of how to outreach the Muslim community. So basically, creating relationships and creating them with experts in the community. We also use less words and more symbols and pictures. In fact, some of the meetings we just had the residents draw. And I got that from my own experience because my mom speaks Khmer, the Cambodian language, and I speak English. I was born and raised in the United States. So you can imagine the communication barriers between us, and things were often lost in translation. So growing up, I had to draw for her to sometimes convey ideas and concepts. So I thought to myself, if it worked with her, maybe it'll work with our residents. So one evening, I decided to just walk into the meeting with butcher paper and some markers. Between myself and a few of the residents who spoke minimum English, I just gave them a simple instruction of draw the things you want in your neighborhood. I was hoping that they would laugh or think it's silly, and they didn't. They actually all participated, and they really enjoyed dreaming together. And we have some examples here of the drawings. We're not going to win an award for artistic ability anytime soon. But as you can see, in the middle of the streets, there are actually speed bumps. They're not worms, they're speed bumps. And that's reflective, truly reflective of a need in community, because City Heights and Colina Park in San Diego, we have one of the highest pedestrian accident rates. As you can see, that they want more lighting, so that's a safety concern. They want trash cans, so that's a beautification issue. They want trees, they want outdoor space. Next slide. So more lights, and they actually emphasize the sidewalk because this portion of the neighborhood actually, it's a route going to one of the elementary schools. So imagine walking your child to school without sidewalks. And also they drew a police car because that's their idea of safety. So definitely safety was a huge concern of our residents. Next slide. This was done by a youth, and she was basically illustrating what she wanted in her park. She wanted a pool, basketball, football, so basically recreational space, and also another trash can, so another beautification thing. And they want their own space. They want a teenagers club. And our kids are more advanced than us because this was done in '08, and they're already thinking green. Another great event was our youth summit. In the middle of our usual brainstorming session, of course, you know, you go through the thoughts of like, why aren't we getting the interest from the residents? Why are we not getting the numbers at our meetings? And I shared with my steering committee that the youth in this neighborhood bear a lot of responsibilities. A lot of our parents don't speak English, or they're not literate in any language. So most of the household responsibilities fall on the kids. They pay the bills, they translate, they schedule appointments, they fill out paperwork. I had to do that growing up. So we collaborate with our youth organizations, and we hosted a youth summit. 78 youth participated and talked about problems they encounter and solutions to those problems. And they actually put this slide together in 2008, and I'll just go through it. So the problems that they identified were drugs, gangs, and fights. Next slide. So the solutions that they came up with, or more police, good ones. I don't know what that means, but what they share with me is that they feel like they were often harassed. Next one. And because of the safety issue, lights again, and an idea that they came up with actually installing cameras, and more healthy and safe recreation for youth. A large amount of our housing stock are apartment complexes, so it's not like they don't have front yards or backyards. So they really depend on the public recreational space to get their exercise. Also, cultural education for each other. I was super impressed when this came out, and a light bulb went off. Because we, in our community, kids fight all the time. We have riots and things like that. And we ask ourselves again and again as, community leaders, why is this happening? And our youth said, because we don't understand each other. If I don't know you, I'm going to automatically go on the offense. So when they came up with this, I'm like, yeah, duh. Do we have the next one? So, and they presented to the whole group. As you can see, it's super important to be flexible and creative because translators are not always available and funding is always limited. So we try to really, hear ideas, get responses from community members, and really run with it. We made every attempt to make the meetings as casual, comfortable, and inviting as possible. We provided food, childcare, and also included breaks for prayer time. Getting together to talk about and address social issue was new to a lot of our residents, so we need to ensure it was comfortable and we move at their pace. We were able to get things done because the whole team hit the ground organizing, listening, and tapping into resources. Tapping into resources is critical in getting things done because it's out there, but we just need to dedicate the time to identify it and create relationships to be able to access it. The best tool in working with an immigrant community partner organizations that work closely with our residents, that know our residents, and that believe in comprehensive community development. The worst thing we can do is to make assumptions about a neighborhood and its people, even if information were based on previous studies, surveys, and our efforts, because our residents move in and out according to affordability. 43% of our residents live below the poverty line. They are renters and they follow cheap rent. Every year I lose some good residents, but that's the reality of the work. But every year I meet amazing people. They actually teach me about comprehensive community development and what it truly means. One of our superstar residents, that's what I call him, Sidney Michaels, have lived in Colina Park for 20 years. He raised his children here, and he calls Colina Park home. Colina Park is full of residents like Sidney who cares but don't know their role or how they can contribute. That's our job. Our job to give them the tools to take ownership. I want to introduce you to more of our residents since I can't bring them all here with me. I brought them via video, and I'm super proud of this video, and I'm honored to show it to you today because it was produced by our local students. And if you guys are watching, hi, I'm Vass.
San Diego, California. What images immediately come to mind? Sunny weather, sandy beaches, major attractions like the San Diego Zoo or SeaWorld.
I'm from Oakland, California. I came back to San Diego in the Navy, and I got out of the Navy after 7 years. And I met my wife and moved over here to the Colina Park area.
Well, I'm originally from the Philippines, though, and I came here from Sacramento. And ever since I live here, I met somebody like Sydney. That's why I met him. That's why I'm living here at Colina Park.
My name is Amina Dan. I'm from original Somalia. I just moved here in San Diego, California, 2006. I'm resident at Colina and I work at Colina.
Colina Park is one of the more densely populated areas in the region located on the edge of a larger mid-city community called City Heights. The western part of the City Heights has been transformed in recent years thanks to millions of dollars in redevelopment funds. And yet, Colina Park, situated in the eastern part of City Heights, has not benefited much from this community investment. Residents are still challenged by crime, poor lighting, transportation, difficulties in getting jobs, as well as lack of basic neighborhood assets like sidewalks. And cultural differences, though considered strength, can also contribute to misunderstanding and isolation. More than half of Colina Park's residents were born outside of the United States and arrived here under the most stressful circumstances.
Actually, I want to add, if they can keep Colina to have more lights and build the streets. Nowadays, you see the streets is really, they have a big holes and what. If can they just go and fix those and have more lights so people can really, and the park, so we can have more residents utilize that park.
Still, the leaders and residents of Colina Park, empowered by their diversity and determination, decided they wanted to improve their neighborhood for the sake of their children, their families, and themselves. Step by step, house meetings became large group meetings, and ultimately a steering committee was formed. Invigorated by an ambitious, comprehensive planning effort facilitated in 2008 by a steering committee comprised of neighborhood organizations and schools, residents and business people came together as a community to develop their neighborhood's first quality of life plan. It's a stakeholder-driven, action-oriented roadmap for their future. Unlike many redevelopment plans, this one has not sat on the shelf to gather dust. This plan is a living document that has inspired and motivated Colina Park residents to initiate innovative projects and programs in their community and, in doing so, building on the diversity that lives, works, and plays in this evolving neighborhood.
In my office, actually, it's been broken, and somebody get in and take all the computer for the kids, and that was the challenge. And the success is we involved with the SDPD, the police, and then we invited them so they can come. But them coming there and see the police coming and see the resident, we have a group, like we said, a group night watch out. So those groups, we took telephones and involving, so they can call each other whatever they see something suspicious, and so it's been really good, great, and it's kind of getting peace now where we work and where people living.
La dificultad de la inseguridad del área de Colina Park, falta de lugares de recreación para mis hijos y a lo mejor un poco la falta de confianza entre la comunidad de City Heights y la policía de esta área.
80 families from 12 countries turned a dry, vacant lot into an oasis of food and income for refugees and immigrants via the IRC's New Roots Community Farm. The IRC has also opened a Center for Financial Opportunity in Colina Park to help families improve their financial bottom line through an innovative program that combines workforce development, financial coaching, and income support counseling. And students at the local high school are documenting the progress for all these projects through digital stories.
I involved with the IRC, and we met IRC in San Diego before I was living in Wisconsin.
Can you tell me a little bit about the types of things that they teach you? I think you're involved in their small business, kind of micro enterprise work. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do with them?
They teach me many business, and we was just farming, and they giving us a small garden. Right now we have a small garden in 53 Street, but we was in a Tara Miguel. They give us many training, and they teach us many things for aggregation, how we tapping the grill tape, how we farming, how we can produce some crops, and how we can get money. But and the way they giving us many experience, how we can just teach ourselves for how we can get our money, and they teach me a lot, and I'm happy with them. They're doing something very good.
I like the Colina Park because one thing is just close to the store, everywhere. We're surrounded, and especially that we have a really good mixture of people here, and they are nice though. And I like it.
All these projects and initiatives are coming to reality because the diverse people of Colina Park, given a platform and framework to engage with one another, are turning hardship into action and a better life. They are proud people and want everyone to know that their neighborhood has many faces but one calling card. We are Colina Park.
Yo soy Colina Park.
I am Colina Park.
I'm Colina Park.
I am Colina Park.
Our kids did a great job, huh? Next generation of filmmakers. As you can see, our residents in our neighborhood and our youth have come a long way, but there's a lot of more work to do. Without having our team on the ground listening to people, we wouldn't have known for a neighborhood shuttle. We wouldn't have known people didn't feel safe in their own neighborhood, in their own park, and the need for public art and cultural events. At the end of our listening campaign, we ended up listening to about 300 people. So let me go back and answer the question, what does comprehensive community development mean to an immigrant community? Most importantly, what does it mean to individuals like Soka and Sydney? How they define it, it's pretty simple. They want better for their children. Growing up, I was told to do better and move out. And that's the reality of the neighborhood. Parents teach their children that Colina Park's not a place where you put down roots because of the safety concern, the poor housing, and the lack of opportunities. We have to accept the fact that some folks don't care to make Colina Park their home. It's a stepping stone to where they want to go. But how can we make that change for our lifelong residents like Sydney? How can we change that mentality? We change it by helping residents to work towards self-sufficiency and develop the skills to take ownership. As leaders of this community, we're all accountable for that. I am accountable for that because residents don't see me as an employee of the City Heights CDC. In fact, my work doesn't end at 5 or Monday through Friday. Residents know me as Soka's daughter and that I help people. So sometimes I get phone calls on the weekends and in the evenings, and they ask me to help translate, apply for food stamps, complete paperwork. It's unrealistic for us to talk about a 5-year plan or even a 1-year plan when our residents have immediate needs and are focused on the now. Immigrant communities are usually focused on the now. How can I feed my family today? Can I make rent this month? So when engaging people, it's important to find and implement programs that address these basic needs and provide opportunities for short and long-term successes to keep up motivation and momentum. So that's why we provided early action grants, collaborate on events like movie nights, a safety event called National Night Out, and the first ever City Heights Human Rights event. Now that we have a taste of success, our residents need more, we need more resources to support our programs, project, and most importantly, we need to continue to organize this neighborhood. Organizing is the backbone of community development. Community engagement and leadership development should never stop. It should not just be in a planning period. It should last throughout the whole process. Sustainability occurs when we invest in the people. I am proof, programs, projects, and leaders invested in me. And now I have the tools and capacity to make change. Because change doesn't happen on its own. It happens when there's a catalyst, an event, an issue, a leader. As a mom, I want to raise my son not to stay away or turn away from his roots. I want to teach him to stay and make Colina Park his home. That's why I'm here at this table, and that's why I'm part of this team.
Sakara, thanks so much for that excellent introduction to Colina Park. Good morning. I'm Jason, and I'm a financial counselor at the International Rescue Committee, a refugee resettlement agency that's based out of City Heights and Colina Park. I'd like to give you a little background on what we do. and then talk about how it intersects with the very important work of partners like City Heights CDC and LISC. Sakara just did a great job creating a picture of Colina Park and the people who live, work, and raise their families there. As she pointed out, Colina Park is home to both long-term residents and communities of new Americans. Among these communities of new Americans are a particular type of immigrant, refugees. Now, refugee has a very specific definition under international humanitarian law. A refugee is a person who is forced to leave their home country and cannot return because of a well-founded fear of persecution based on race, religion, political activity, or membership in certain social groups. Refugees come to the United States through the federal government's Refugee Assistance Program. Nonprofit resettlement agencies, like the IRC, provide assistance during the initial period of arrival. And San Diego is one of many cities and towns across the United States that's home to new Americans who have arrived through this program. Refugee resettlement has had a significant impact on the cultural portrait of San Diego. This figure shows a breakdown of the regions of origin of the 22,000 refugees resettled in San Diego by the IRC since 1975. Right now, the majority of our caseload is from Iraq. Now, we can talk about refugee resettlement in an abstract sense, but what does it really mean? What does it look like on the ground? Refugee resettlement services begin with one of our case managers meeting a newly arrived family at the airport. And to better illustrate this process, I'd like to introduce you to Reem. Reem arrived in San Diego from Sudan back in 2004. She came with her 2 children. Her case manager met her at the airport, brought her to her first apartment. He provided cultural orientation, enrolled her children in school, and helped Reem to enroll in English classes. The U.S. Refugee Resettlement Program places a heavy emphasis on self-sufficiency and getting refugees to self-sufficiency as quickly as possible. In practice, this means being able to pay for rent, food, and utilities. So after initially arriving, the IRC's work with Reem focused on helping her to learn English and then start looking for a job with a job developer. About 6 months after she arrived, Reem got a job as a cashier at a gas station. She worked the graveyard shift, earning $10 an hour for $32 a week. This was just enough to pay the rent on a 1-bedroom apartment and meet other basic expenses. But from the self-sufficiency standard, Reem was a successful resettlement, and it was now time for the IRC to turn its attention to the next arrival. So this begs the question, why is the IRC interested in comprehensive community development? Isn't this a bit outside the mission of a self-sufficiency-focused refugee resettlement agency? Well, the answer to that question really comes from Sakara's presentation and the stories and profiles of Colina Park residents that she just presented. Because just like everyone else, just getting by is not enough. Recently resettled refugees are looking for a sense of connectedness, ownership, safety, opportunity, and improved quality of lives for their families. So among refugee resettlement agencies, there's been growing recognition that we need to do more than help our clients survive. We need to help them thrive. Refugee resettlement agencies thus have a significant role to play in comprehensive community development because healthy, sustainable communities make for more successful refugee resettlement. Within comprehensive community development initiatives, like Neighborhoods First in Colina Park, we see it as our role to combine the assets and capabilities of recently resettled refugees with the assets and capabilities of long-established community members. Now, one way that the IRC has sought to do this is through the New Roots Community Farm, which was presented in the Colina Park profile that we just watched. The farm was the result of a broad-based community organizing effort consisting of both neighborhood residents and community organizations. Now that the farm is up and running, there are plots operated by immigrants from Somalia, Burma, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Mexico, Guatemala, and other countries. The farm is crucially important to the communities for several reasons. First, it provides access to healthy, fresh produce. It helps stretch tight household food budgets. It provides a communal space for work and play, and it harnesses the agricultural knowledge and expertise of neighborhood residents in a way that benefits the entire community. Last April, we had the great honor of hosting First Lady Michelle Obama at New Roots Community Farm. She came to visit as part of her anti-childhood obesity initiative. Here we can see her with two of my coworkers, Amy Lint and Bilali Moya, and one of our neighborhood residents, Khadija Musame, as they tour the farm. Now, if you look closely, off in the distance, way back behind the fence, I think you can see me too. Hopefully, Mrs. Obama's next initiative will be financial education, and then maybe I can meet her a little more personally. And that's the other way that we're working to build and further develop the assets and capabilities of new arrivals, through our Financial Opportunity Center. LISC Financial Opportunity Centers systematically integrate income supports, employment, and financial education services. In Colina Park, we've also incorporated a microenterprise component because we find that to be a particularly successful strategy within heavily immigrant communities. The systematic integration of these services is particularly important for refugees, for they arrive in the United States lacking familiarity with our complex financial and employment systems. A comprehensive approach is necessary for such a difficult transition. Reem's story illustrates the difficulty of this transition. When I first started working with her, it was 2007, about 3 years after she had arrived. She was still working at the gas station, still taking English classes, but she'd also started taking some courses towards a certificate to be a certified nursing assistant. She was referred to me by her old case manager because she'd been denied an apartment at a new affordable housing complex due to a poor credit history. When we reviewed her credit report, we found she had a FICO score of 489. She had about $2,600 in delinquent debt, most of which was due to a long delinquent telephone bill that she'd accrued not long after arriving in the United States. As a financial counselor, I felt frustrated. I felt like there wasn't very much that I could do for Reem. Back in 2007, we weren't a financial opportunity center yet. Our job developers didn't have the capacity to serve more than their current caseloads of recently resettled refugees, and their services were geared towards helping people find entry-level employment, like the cashier job that Reem already had. With the wages she was earning, she just wasn't making enough to get ahead. Reem's challenge is a common challenge among refugee communities. Finding career paths that extend beyond entry-level jobs that utilize the knowledge and skills that they bring from their home countries. Coming up with strategies to address this challenge is the major goal of our Financial Opportunity Center. Two such strategies that are really promising on this front are career development and microenterprise. Both of these initiatives draw on the energy and entrepreneurial spirit that many immigrants bring with them to the United States. In Reem's case, I'm happy to report that she's taken the next step. Last summer, she completed the Certified Nursing Assistant program, and in September, she was offered a job at Grossmont Hospital, earning $18 an hour with benefits. Reem was distinguished in the application process because of a special skill that she brought, her Arabic language proficiency. Grossmont Hospital had seen a significant increase in Arabic-speaking patients with the recent influx in refugees from Iraq. But there's only so much that a PowerPoint presentation and secondhand observations can do to convey the work that's going on. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Umar Ba. Umar started working with us before we were an official FOC, but he took the initiative to systematically integrate our services for himself. And Umar's hard work, initiative, and tenacity represent exactly what we want the FOC to be for residents of Colina Park. Umar?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jason. I don't speak very well English. You have to listen closely to understand what I want to say. My name is Umar Ba. I am from Mauritania. When the civil war broke in Mauritania, I fled to Senegal, is our next neighborhood country. I've been in this country for 19 years. When I apply to the United States for permanent resettlement. In 2006, I was chosen for a permanent resettlement in the United States. It was very difficult. I was also very happy to come here because I know I have some opportunities. In 2006, September, I came in San Diego. I started by taking English classes at adult school close to my house in the evening. My resettlement agency helped me find a job at PCI. Is a contractor with NASCO, a large ship builder in San Diego. When I got this job, I was done with my resettlement agency, as mentioned Jason. Also during this time, I have a chance to meet a wonderful lady named Jana. He was in Senegal to study for exchange student. She spoke French and a little bit of Wolof. I was able, she's the only one I could communicate with. She helped me to connecting me with IRC. That's how I start getting better. While I was doing my taxes, I learned about how we build credit. I went to this class to have information. I also got a small loan from IRC to establish my credit. In this day, my credit score is over 700. Even though I am not a type of person who cannot borrow something he cannot afford, I really need to have help from this kind of services, because in our culture we don't go to the bank to borrow money. We borrow money from one person to another. Also, you don't have due date. You have to pay this one. We don't know due date. No. We just pay whenever you can. You don't have any pressure. During this time, I was taking 3 hours to go to my job, 3 hours to go back. I couldn't study English. I couldn't go to school because I don't have a car. I have to take a bus. I have to go take a trolley. At the same time, it took me 3 hours. But in 2008, I went back to IRC to file my taxes. I got a large amount of money. With IRC, I bought my new car. I was able to go to work, go to school, and improve. With the car, I took only 10 minutes to go, 10 minutes to come back. With the buses, I just take 3 hours for each trip. It saved me time. I went back to school. I earned my GED. Right now, I am attending City College to study accounting. This is my second semester. The first semester was very good. I have a good grade, even though I don't speak English that much. In 2009, I began working with Tuba at IRC also. She is a career development. She helped me to file FASA, to apply for the financial aid, to apply to the schools. All these services, I got them from IRC. They helped me a lot. We are refugees. We cannot have something if we don't have help. We came from countries, we've been through for so many things. When you got here, you need support. You need people who can understand how you've been through. Being a refugee is the most difficult thing in your life. That's the most difficult thing that can happen to somebody. You leave your country, you go to another country, you don't have any, even you don't speak the language, you cannot, people don't take you as a victim. They're gonna say you are responsible what happened to you. They don't know what happened to you. That's a problem with the refugee when we go to the other countries. But when I arrive here, I have is over my expectation. I never imagined I gonna find some people who care so much about human beings. They did a lot. That's Tuba, Jana Carlson, and Harriet. Harriet was the one who tutoring my family. My wife, she helped her to learn English. I would like to present my wife here. Yeah. And my daughter, Maria too, she's 13 years old. She's in middle school. The next. That's my son, Mamadou. He's 10 years old. He's in elementary school. They are the main thing who brought me here, because I was denied to have a good education in my country. If I still over there, they're gonna have the same thing. That's my main things to have. I'm gonna work really, really hard to make them to go to college and university to graduate. That's my main goal, is my children. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I don't speak that much English, but I wanna share some history, the things I really been through, the things I have here in the United States. I'm really happy to be here. I'm gonna be U.S. citizen. I'm gonna be able to vote, things I didn't be able to do in my life. I never be able to vote, to say somebody, I chose somebody, but we don't impose somebody for us. Thank you very much. That's I have to share with you this morning. I am happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Wow, how do you follow that?
You don't.
You don't. You don't, yeah. So thank you very much, Umar, for sharing your powerful, powerful story with us. It certainly is one of both hope and inspiration. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the entire panel for being here today. Again, as Sakara shared with you, we couldn't bring everybody here with us. We couldn't bring the entire Colina Park neighborhood. But, you know, in terms of us, we're living examples of people who stand on the shoulders of many. So maybe let's just close real quickly here by just saying, ladies and gentlemen, neighborhoods in San Diego are becoming more diverse, and we are indeed a nation of immigrants. Our Colina Park in San Diego is an international village, and our panelists, these San Diego innovators, the San Diego innovators right here, provided you with a slight taste of the great work happening in our new immigrant communities. More importantly, you can see why it's key in our work that people have to be a part of their own pathway to ensure the success of their neighborhoods, themselves, and their families. Diversity. Diversity presents many challenges. Again, sometimes it can be perceived as a weakness. But again, it can also be a great source of strength. And in San Diego, we don't have any choice to look at it any other way, because the alternative is really not a choice at all. The simple translation of our presentation this morning certainly touched upon levels of cultural competence. But let's break it down even more than that. What we are really talking about today, broken down more so, is that it includes common language, taking the opportunity to be better listeners, taking the time to understand one another better. It also includes community engagement, the trust that's built in the relationship building process, how key that is. And last but not least, it's experience. Experience in creating opportunities for partnership, topped with a lot of hard work. This is what we know. This is what we've learned. And this is what we've done so far. But we believe, and we believe this with all our hearts, that the best is yet to come, and that we are fully capable of doing more, and that we have to do more as we seek additional partners and supporters to really help those help themselves and take this work to the next level. Again, we want to thank you for your time this morning, and we're certainly open to any questions that you may have. I'm actually going to throw the first question out. You know, all of us, we've heard some great presentations since we've been here. And I know I'm going to be taking back some things with me to San Diego to really focus on implementation. We're hoping this morning that what you heard today, that you're also able to go back with a takeaway, hopefully at least one thing. So I guess my question to you is basically after what you've heard here, what might be one takeaway that you might be able to take back to your neighborhood, to your community, to your work, to help make a difference? You know, and I don't need to do this in any order, but you just shout some things out.
Community organizing is the backbone of community development.
Woohoo!
Community organizing is the backbone of community development. Anything else? Learn how to tell your story and do it often. They did a great job. Right here.
Nurture the emerging leadership that's coming.
Nurturing that emerging leadership. Anything else? This is great. Let's go. Let's go. Hayward.
Joe, I think that showcasing the results of the people that you work with was key.
Thank you very much. Showcasing those results. Yeah.
Solutions can come from stakeholders themselves.
And in fact, isn't that one of the simple ones? That solutions need to come from those stakeholders, the people that are being impacted the most. Yes?
Youth involvement.
Yes.
Youth involvement. Right. As we learn the important role of youth, because they play a very critical role in their community. In the back? The complexity of the intergenerational work. Absolutely. Michael?
Using cultural diversity is a strength to build upon.
Absolutely. Again, like we said, we have no choice in San Diego but to look at it that way.
Regardless of which country we come from, we do speak a common language.
Right. Right. We really all want the same thing for ourselves and our kids, right? We want them to have more than what we have. We want them to have a better life than what we have. That is what we have in common. That's the starting point, and we can't forget that.
Comprehensive approach to working with people.
That's right. We can't work in silos, and that's what the whole work of comprehensive community development and LISC and our invaluable community partners, and of course all the people in San Diego that we want to give props to and shouts out that couldn't be with us here today. Yeah.
Communication can be verbal, visual, through action, so you need to open your mind about how you communicate.
Absolutely, communication is key. You know, I learned even growing up myself that I'm not an auditory, I'm a visual person. So, you know, some of my teachers used to have described things, Joe, picture this, versus, right? Simple things, but instead of, can you hear the sound of the crowd? Well, no, not really, but if you said picture this, I can actually relate and understand that more. Anything else?
People is our greatest asset, and we should
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. But we have a lot of expertise up here also. So, are there any questions for our panelists here? Chris? I guess. I guess I might not be doing it correctly, but I think that's what that is there for.
Yep. Okay. So, quite often I feel like my generation has had one hell of a party, and everybody's sort of staggered out at 2 in the morning and left the place a mess. And I feel pretty bad about that, except hearing you guys, I am really confident that you'll get it straightened out.
That's a lot of pressure.
It's very inspiring. I always make a speech first. Here's my question, and it goes back to community organizing being the soul of community development, which is something that people forgot. Community development is ongoing, and by definition, then community organizing needs to be ongoing too. And can you describe a little bit about how you keep people engaged over time, even after the sort of the excitement of the planning stage has passed on, and you need to get down to business and deal with it day in, day out?
Our technique is definitely giving those short and long-term successes. I mean, we had to run, and we had to run fast with a very complex community. For example, safety was a huge concern. Every meeting I went to, safety, safety, safety. I'm like, oh, we can't just talk about safety. We have to do something. Our folks are, 1 meeting's good, 2 meetings okay, 3 meetings bad. They're like, I'm not going to come anymore. So we need to really get them moving and participating in planning and working towards implementation. So I thought to myself, what can we do around safety? Because, I talked to our residents, do you want to have meetings with police officers? No, because there needs to be a trust level developed before they even, feel comfortable. So I decided to do some research and then stumbled upon National Night Out. It's like a national movement, 1 day, 1 event. Come together, meet your neighbors, celebrate safety. I'm like, oh, that's doable. Went to our steering committee like, hey, what do you guys think about this? We have no budget, so, can we make it happen? So between, one person volunteering the barbecue to the next donating hamburgers to like, oh, I'll do some activities the day of, we started our first annual Colina Park Night Out 3 years ago. And, it's been a couple years, and we've done it ever since, with 0 budget. So it's kind of really being creative and working with your greatest assets and those are the partners on the ground doing the same work. But now it's just putting a different spin on it. It's instead of us working individually, addressing safety, let's come together. Let's pool resources. If I have, a popcorn machine, you have a barbecue, let's do a picnic. So that's an example of how we're forced to get creative and really look internally in our own neighborhood, what are the assets we have, and let's use it.
The one thing I would add to that is keeping the eye on the long-term goal, even after some initial successes. So like what we saw with the park, for example, that was a long-term community organizing effort. It took over 2 years from the date that the parcel had been identified to making that happen. There was a lot of bureaucracy at the city level. The permit that was required cost $5,000. But once they finally shepherded the park through that process and got it built, it didn't stop there. They didn't let all the momentum that had built up just sort of dissipate, but they rechanneled that momentum into reforming the process at the city to make it easier to start urban farms throughout San Diego, to get rid of that $5,000 permitting requirement, which is cost prohibitive for a lot of groups and a lot of communities.
Yeah, and I think in summary, I think, what they're emphasizing is the fact that, with your question, community development being the backbone of, certainly comprehensive community development, it's a lot of hard work. There are a lot of challenges with it. And as Sakara alluded to in her presentation, I mean, you don't just start with it. If anything, you have to ratchet it up and try and take it to that next level, because you need that type of organization, more importantly, to do what the community wants, and that's the implementation part.
I'm from Gambia, Mr.
Yes. Thank you.
I can relate to what you were saying. I didn't come here as a refugee, but I understand. I'm 100 miles from Mauritania.
Yeah.
He speaks French, and I see you did a terrific job for him to be standing there speaking English like that. You did a terrific job.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, I think it's a given in our business that when families start to do better, neighborhoods do better. But I was wondering if you could comment on the impact of mobility and how you see that, in terms of families moving up and out.
Families moving up and out. Definitely, it's improving the quality of life, and the plan, it's a great start. We have a list of things that residents want to see happen. One of the projects that we got funding for was residents mentioned mobility issues. The topography of Colina Park, there are steep hills, and senior citizens and moms with young children have difficulty moving around. So the idea of a neighborhood shuttle came out. And I'm like, a neighborhood shuttle, that's like close to hard to impossible to implement. But, an environmental justice RFP came out. We're like, what the heck? Let's put in a proposal. Let's give them all we got. And we actually got funded to study the feasibility of a neighborhood shuttle. And now that we're turning it back around to our residents, like, hey, you mentioned a neighborhood shuttle? Now, there's a process, and you need to participate, let us know, take leadership within it, because at the end of this, we're going to have a study and a plan of how we can make it happen, and if we can make it happen. So it's really working with a resident at their pace, because sometimes, we want to move fast according to what RFP's out or what's the new and hot thing. But if our residents are not ready to move, and as long as we respond to their needs and the things that they want to participate in, I think they're gonna start to change that mentality of like, hey, there's people who care in this neighborhood, and I actually, should stay, and I should participate in changing the mentality of people wanting to move out. That is, Colina Park's only a stepping stone. And, a lot of our residents do move out, but like everyone else, they come back to home, and they want to somehow play a part in it in one way or another. So I think mainly it's giving them opportunities to participate, but on their level and at their pace, and showing them that people truly cares. Organizations and people in the leadership position, people with capacity, truly care to take their ideas, to take their perspective, and include them in the process towards implementation and change.
Hi. I'm very interested in the schools and how you're relating. I know you said that you had I think a grade schooler and a middle schooler. Yes. And I can imagine with all the different languages and cultures, and then, we have all this pressure on test scores or whatever, how you're kind of integrating and managing those issues.
Crawford, our local high school, Crawford High School, have dealt with this for a long time. And we're fortunate enough that IRC is in the community, and that's their expertise, is dealing with immigrant and refugee population. So they actually implemented a Students Plus program, which is specialized in engaging the refugee and immigrant youth. So it's an after-school program, and plus I think they do a lot of activities to kind of give our youth a little more extra time and attention to solely integrate them into the school system, and also give them extra help in terms of academics.
There have been numerous studies that show that there is somewhat of a toxic effect on health for being in the U.S. The longer that you're in the U.S., your health outcomes can tend to go down, especially around mental health and obesity, diabetes, and asthma, and those kinds of things. So I'm curious about how you've integrated the public health component, and especially the mental health component, given the refugee community and some of the nobody should have had to go through what they've gone through?
That's a great question. And it's something that continues to be an ongoing challenge for San Diego and our community. Because San Diego has been such a long-term refugee resettlement hub, we actually do have an organization in town that specializes in mental health issues for people that have gone through the worst trauma. The organization is called Survivors of Torture International, and they provide culturally competent counseling services for those most difficult cases. But in terms of the other public health outcomes, it's something that we need to try to address in as much of a comprehensive way as possible. Things like the community farm are a great way to do that, to bring in more fresh foods, to provide a place to work, and to provide aspects to engage in activity that bring familiarity. But it's more than that. We need to work with the healthcare infrastructure to set up systems for better translation at healthcare appointments, as well as for not just doing sort of the technical translation, but understanding different cultural understandings of disease and integrating that into the communications that take place between medical practitioners and the community. We're actually just getting ready to launch a Health Navigator program where we're going to be recruiting people from the community, training them in these techniques, and then sending them out with recent arrivals for their health appointments. But great question, thank you.
We're almost done. We're almost done at our time. Oh, okay. I guess we need to wrap it up. That was the last question. I don't know. They don't give me any instructions up here.